Hourglass shape, make my place go. Waistline makes my soldier salute, I'm a brute. High from your high heel game. High heels push up your last name. And you're living in the fast lane, eyes like an angel. Goddess. Watch my yelling, I shit I dress. Spotless. Hotness bad to the bone, make me wanna bone. Put me in the triple X zone. Lames don't know how to talk to you, so let me walk with you. Hold my hand, I'ma spend them grands. What after you undress? Not like a hooker, but more like a princess, queen, empress, president. Pull anywhere you go on earth, cause you're beautiful. Okay?
I see you in the club, shutting down, girl. I wanna get with you. Ooh, yeah. I see you in the club, showing those love. I wanna get with you. You're so beautiful, so damn beautiful. Said you're so beautiful, so damn beautiful. You're so beautiful, 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 beautiful. You're so beautiful, 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 beautiful. You're so beautiful. Where'd you come from? You're out of this world to me. You're a symbol of what a beautiful woman should be. Ooh, we. I never wanna see you cry, and I never wanna tell a lie, Said I never wanna see you cry, and I never wanna tell a lie, I wanna get with you, yeah. See you in the club, I wanna get with you. You're so beautiful, so damn beautiful. Said you're so beautiful, so damn beautiful. You're so beautiful.
Tonight we gon' get lit. Me and you going in, so tell that piece of shit of an excuse you call a boyfriend that he ain't gotta worry about you coming back home. Cause you done found what you've been looking for all along. Just a little bit of vibe and stick. Now you on Florida time. Now you so round and thick. Slim waist, pretty face, you Florida fine. So you ain't gotta pay for drinks no more. Cause I done found what I've been looking for all along. I'm talking about where the ring, everything. Don't even sweat it, babe, hesitate. Name to my love language. Hear them say what they say. They about to be like how the fuck did they get married in the club. I'm talking about swimming in Benjamins. You can get it in, fit it in the back of my truck for me. Don't take your love from me. Clearly you need a club husband. You need a club husband. You leave a love husband. Baby, I'm up to something. You make me wanna touch something. Smack it up, flip it and rub something. Love husband. Love husband. Love husband. Yeah, don't take your love from me. Yeah, I'm your club husband. That's it. Look at that thing go crazy. Back it up on that stick.
All right, that feels like a perfect place to begin. Let us dive into this training. Good morning. How is everyone doing? How is your guys' day so far? Actually, like, is it going really good? Are you here? So, fun fact, if you're new to the community, welcome. I saw that we had a lot of new people join this last week, so that is exciting. Welcome. If you're new to my world, welcome. Here's what's really fun about every single thing that just comes through my essence. Everything that I do is to ignite more sensuality in you, more excitement, more joy, more pleasure, more sensuality, more of our yes. and less of our no. Does that make sense? So it's so fun. I love to pull cards. Just love that. So today's miracle card is I walk away from anything that dims my light. I walk away from anything that dims my light. So I don't know about you guys, but I do not like to jump on trainings unless I am getting information that is going to change my life out of it. So I promise in less than an hour, I'm going to give you epic tools that can help you really shift. This event is called Level Up. And when I say level up, I mean level up in the sense that there is a desire inside of you. There is perhaps a dream inside of you, or we could use the word fantasy. And we need to be very skillful in how we transmute and turn that fantasy or that dream into a goal. And beyond the goal, we're going to get really damn good at making it feel easy and light and fun. So if you are new to my world, hello, I'm Brianna. I love to teach human design and gene keys, anything about shifting your emotional patterns, helping you understand that how you see yourself is actually what creates the emotional patterns. So if we can change your identity, then I know damn well that we can change the way that you feel. And if we can change the way that you feel, we can change the patterns that have been maybe with you what seems like most of your life. So to have an emotional pattern change means that at a subconscious level, we had a change in identity. So my whole work, my whole message is to become the love that you desire from the inside out. And beyond just the inside out game, how do we meet our human potential and let go of everything that we once knew before? So I'm a huge believer in taking risks. I'm a huge fan of risk taking because the biggest risk in my observation so far is that too many people came to this life and they chose not to live. And to me, that is like the worst thing that you could possibly do is not live this life fully. Like to me, that is not even not even like, okay, it's not exceptional. Like my energy in my chart, it says that I demand the exceptional out of people. And I used to feel really bad about that because I didn't want people to feel like they weren't enough. But that's not what it is. If you're attracted to me or my work, it's because there's a part of you that doesn't want to be mundane. It wants to be exceptional. It wants to, and do this with me, put your shoulders back, chest elevated. Okay. Like I really want you to elevate your chest. Like I want you to see your heart as if it was like frowning and like tilted forward. And I want you to lean back into your heart. Okay. So like pop your chest open, put your shoulders back, elongate your spine, and tell me if you felt anything shift in your physiology. So there's a lot of TED Talks actually on this that talks about the ability to shift our emotional state just on posture. And so a lot of people, they want to spend all of their time in counseling or in like therapy sessions when really, and I mean no disrespect to that field, but the fastest way to change an emotional pattern is to change the physiology of how the body is actually postured. So if your spine is like hunched over and your shoulders are tight and you're just like, tucked in and hiding, then obviously the world is going to feel that sense of hiding. But if your shoulders are back, your chest is elongated or open, and your spine is elongated, I imagine this like golden thread that comes through my spine, and like something up here is like keeping me straight up. And that process is beautiful because it's not about being a puppet. In fact, the reason I love that excellence is because that is when you will no longer be a puppet, because you'll know your connection to source, not your connection to expectations in the social realm. So let's begin. So today I want you to ask, number one, if you're journaling, great. If you're not a journaler, that is okay. But I want you to either put it in the chat if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this in school, if you're watching the replay, wherever you're at. And I want you guys to journal the very question, where in my life have I been trying to up level, or where in my life do I want to up level? Okay, where do I want to up level? That question is important for a lot of reasons, because think about it. You can't actually accomplish or succeed something that you don't actually measure. You can't actually get somewhere if you don't know where you're going. So we need to know where your GPS is set, and then we can like unpack the problem or what has felt like obstacles. Okay. So I want you to journal and I want you to answer in the chat. Where are you trying to up level in your life? And if you're like me, man, you're like every freaking level, more of that, more of that, more of that, more of that. That's really funny because that's exactly where I'm at in my life. So I don't know if that was the collective calling me to make this recording. It's someone on here on this recording, but there is someone, many of us, who are wanting to up level in every area of our life. Now, while you're contemplating that, I want to give you some back reference points. I love astrology and I love systems that tell us truths, and not just truths, but how do we actually embody those truths? So here's what I don't believe. I don't believe that astrology and human design and gene keys and epigenetics and psychology and quantum physics and science and all of those things were ever designed for us to live inside. I think that we were given those tools to use them as just that, as tools. But the minute that any ideology or any truth becomes like a parameter of a box, that's when it becomes a problem. So I'll give you an example. So a lot of people, when they don't know where they're going in their life, and this is what I've seen in my own clientele, okay? So when they don't know where they're going in life, they're like, okay, I'm going to look to the stars. Excellent. They're looking at their astrology, or they're looking at their gene keys, or they're looking at something outside of them. That's the most important part, outside of them, to give them direction. And I know this all too well because I used to do that. Like, those moments where it's not like you're just trying to make a baby decision, but like it feels like your whole life is on the line. And if you screw it up, you're like effed. It's that pressure. And so the pressure is like pressuring us to get to the truth. And so because we can't find it, we're like, maybe it's in this book, maybe it's this philosopher, maybe it's this guru, maybe it's this teacher, maybe it's here, maybe it's there, right? Maybe it's like I can pull a freaking magic card and be like, this is the answer. Okay, that's cute. And here's what I've learned in my personal experience. That can be used as inspiration, but it cannot actually be the lasting foundation. And so, what I mean by that is our moods are constantly perpetuating behavior. And my camera's frozen. Let's catch up. Wow. I really thought it was going to catch up as fast as I was going. Okay, I'll just keep going. So, our emotional behavior perpetuates us to take action based on the questions we're asking. And so, notice what I just said. Our emotional state perpetuates action. So, that action can sometimes be a seeking action, right? Like I'm seeking for the answer because I desire to up level. So, follow me because this is really deep. So, you have an emotional state. That emotional state causes you to go external, to go get an answer, to go get a direction, to go get something that you think that you are lacking or missing. And you're doing that because you're trying to up level, or you're trying to get something, whether it's direction or an answer or some sort of confirmation. And while you're in that state of seeking and in that emotional state of then taking action, between both the emotional state and the action, neither of those are actually the focus of this call. So, what I mean by that is the emotional state and the action is important. But what I've learned is that the question back here, so behind the emotional state, there's a question. And a lot of people don't know what they're unconsciously asking. And this is why this training is so important, because it's unconscious. You don't know what you're asking. So the only example that comes to mind in this moment is when someone believes they're broken. Okay, that's a belief. So it doesn't feel like a question, but that belief then becomes a question. And I don't hear a lot of people explain it this way. So I hope to transform your entire effing life once you understand this one concept. So there is a belief, but we don't always know that beliefs create questions. And in my own awareness or my consciousness, I have observed that the beliefs sometimes have like a voice of their own. And so the voice is something to this effect. So if you believe that you're broken, let's just start there. If you believe that you're broken, or something is fundamentally flawed with you, or you just can't seem to get what it is that you're after, there's a belief or a paradigm or a way of looking at the world or yourself. And because you believe that you're broken or flawed or whatever it is, then the question then becomes, because you've lived it so long, you have an unconscious question of, how do I become whole? How do I become whole? And that might not even be the healthy question. The question for health state could be like, why am I so broken? The unconscious question can be, how do I not feel broken? And so that question is going to perpetuate an emotional state. Your emotional state then is what you're so familiar with. And so I'm using this exact language because like I've had enough experience to know that when we change the question that we live inside, that is when the emotional state changes. And when the emotional state changes, automatically we're no longer seeking out the astrology, the human design, the gene keys, the gurus, the spiritual leaders, the teachers, the experts, the someone tell me what they have to do, because it's no longer a solution, it's a tool. So what I mean by that is, I'll just give you direct experience. Is that cool? So before I started even teaching human design, behavior, psychology, gene keys, astrology, all of these things, I was the person asking, why am I broken? Why am I flawed? Why am I the only one that feels like they don't belong? And then my brain would come up with answers because those were the questions I was asking. Do you get what I'm saying? So my brain would come up with answers. And it was like, well, you've gone through this, this, and this. In childhood, you went through this, this, and this. And so, yeah, it feels like everyone's abandoned you. And so I'm like, cool, I don't like the way I'm feeling about all of that. So notice what I'm saying. I would ask, why am I so broken? Why do I feel like I don't belong? Why do I feel like I'm just this unicorn? Or why do I feel like I am like a black sheep? Pick your animal. Okay, but the point is I felt some type of way because of the question I was asking. So when I was asking, what's wrong with me? Why am I broken? Why can't I up level? Why can't I be a millionaire? Why can't I have the dream man? Why can't I travel? Why can't I blah, blah, blah? Why can't I? That was the literal foundation of my trauma state. Okay. So a lot of us have experiences in childhood, and we all do. And that develops a sort of questioning to a brain that doesn't understand. So in childhood, you can't really conceptualize why you're not feeling loved. You can't really conceptualize why your needs aren't getting met, right? And we don't need to stay in the darkness, but to not acknowledge it is ridiculous, because there's a beautiful book written. I forget her name. It's Deborah something, I think, probably chopping it up, but it's called The Dark Side, or no, it's called The Light Side. No, Dark Side, Dark Side. It's called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. So go read that book if you're new to your healing journey. But she talks about the dark side of a light chaser. And when you're chasing the light and you're chasing the light and you're chasing the light and you're trying to up level because you want more light, more light, more light, there's a dark side. And the dark side isn't wrong. The dark side isn't bad. The dark side isn't unwarranted, but the dark side can sometimes be as simple as a question that's rooted in fear or lack or limitation. And so when we look at the question we've been asking, then we see why we feel the way we do. So when I was asking the questions like, why does my life just not feel like it's working? Like, I know I'm kick ass. I know I'm a badass. Like, I had all these powerful statements that I really did believe simultaneously while feeling like I was abandoned and like the world was happening to me and like life was a limitation, not a magical experience. So, in that questioning form, what do you think that my emotional state was? My emotional state was, oh, cool. So I just had this divorce. Cool. I just went through this thing. Cool. It was like pessimism was drowning me out, even though I was the one that was waking up every day saying, I am powerful. I am confident. Yeah. And here's the problem. The question never got addressed. And a lot of people, especially on YouTube or even wherever you hang out, notice that nobody is having the rich conversation about questions. And questions are actually more important than affirmations, because the affirmation is an answer. The affirmation is an answer to a question. So, for example, like if we go back to just this analogy of seeking for truth outside of ourselves, it's like, okay, cool. This card says, I am my own safe space. Why would that matter? It wouldn't, unless you were asking a question like, what miracle today do I want to experience? That is going to propel an answer that is yummy, right? Like safe space, that's yummy. But does it actually matter when you're asking a question like, why am I broken and what's wrong with me? And then you say, I am my own safe place. Like it's almost like asking a question and then getting an answer and they don't jive. Like, have you ever talked to someone and you're like, hey, where do you want to go for lunch? And they're like, oh my gosh, do you love this blue shirt? And you're like, dude, I just asked you if we were going to go eat something, and now you're talking about your apparel. Like they're not even in the same universe. Okay, and that's really important for you to know because the conversation we're having today is trying to help you understand that your desire and the question you're asking sometimes aren't in the same universe. So if you're asking, why am I broken? But then you have this belief or this, I'm sorry, this desire to up level your health, your wellness, your well being, your relationships, and all that, while asking this really shitty question at a subconscious level, you're not going to get the answers that you want. And so then you're going to perpetuate feeling broken because the experiences you keep having, it's like ping pong. It's like, okay, I'll try harder. And then the ball bounces and it comes back and it's like, nope, you're still broken. And it's like, holy shit balls. Like, how many times do we have to hit the wall before we're like, okay, I want a different result, right? It feels like insanity. So I want to help you get out of insanity and level up. Is that cool? Because when you change the question, as I so did, I was like, hey, astrology is telling me this, and human design is telling me this, and all of these things are saying X, Y, and Z. Do you think any of that information helped me as long as I was under the premise or the question, why am I flawed? It's like, no, because no amount of validation could fix the hole in my bucket. It was like you're trying to patch up a hole in the bucket without actually replacing the bucket. And so all the water that goes in the bucket just goes out of the bucket. So when you ask a better question, if you're not catching what I'm saying, let me make it so damn simple. If you want to up level, you've got to change the question you live inside, period. Because the question that you live inside then perpetuates the emotional state. That emotional state will then transition into the direct behavior that you take. So, fast forward, I changed the question I was living in. It wasn't, why am I broken? Why am I always abandoned? Why does no one love me the way I love them? All of those, like, poor is me, woe is me, all of that victim energy. And rightfully so, to be honest. When that question shifted, because I had a direct experience come in and say, you've got to change the narrative. You literally effing have to change the narrative, or else your life is going to be a living hell. And I say that with full conviction that if I had not changed the question, I would not be recording this video today because the path I was on versus where I'm at now they're not even in the same universe. Why? Because in this universe, I was attracting and manifesting based off the question I was living inside, not based on how cool I was, not how much effort I put in by doing the Hal Elrod 5 a.m. entrepreneurship, kick-ass mornings, reading the books, doing all of the things, working in corporate, kicking sales ass. Like I was like, you tell me what to do and I will do it better than anyone else I know. Like it was like very ego driven. It was like, oh, you want me to perform? I'll perform and some. But even though all of that behavior would tell you that I was successful inside, in my internal reality, I was living in a question, which was, why am I so flawed? And when you're living in a question, and that is the environment that you live in internally, you will take action externally because you don't like that question. It makes you feel shitty, right? So now let's add the emotional pattern. So when you're asking that question, even if you're kicking ass in the outside world, what do you think I felt like on a daily basis? I felt literally broken for obvious reasons. I felt melancholy, like melancholy to a very deficit, like a deep, deep, deep sensation of melancholy. A deep like sorrow, a deep grief. It felt like I was constantly suffering. There were so many things in me that just felt so heavy. So to get out of that sensation of heaviness, right? Because now we're in the emotional state based on the question. Now we're in the emotional state. So what is the action that someone would take who's in heaviness, who's in sorrow, who's in suffering, who's in this ideology of I can't get out, so I want out? I'll tell you what that did. The action was then, awesome. I am going to let the external world tell me how to get out of my victimhood and my suffering. And the external world is telling me I need to perform more. I need to produce more. I need to wake up at 5 a.m. and then I won't feel this way. I need to eat oatmeal. And I did a bikini competition. Like I could go on and on and on. And when I did my bikini competition, I was the most miserable I have ever been in my entire effing life. Okay, so do we see the pattern? So most people, when they're wanting to up level, they're going to go right to behavior, like right to behavior. They're like, okay, cool. So these people that have $1 million, these people that are successful, they're doing X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to wake up and I'm going to execute X, Y, and Z. But you can execute X, Y, and Z, and you can even do it better than those people you've seen execute A, Y, Z, F, whatever letter. And notice that your emotional state, what I've observed, actually gets worse, not better, worse. Because while you've got your internal world, which is sinking or is heavy based on the questions you're asking, you've got all of this pressure on the outside world to try to escape that. It's like you're trying to escape it so hard that when you do and it doesn't work, it just feels like it collapses. So now you've got all of that energy of whatever emotional state you started with, and then it collapses and it becomes frustration, anger, bitterness, resentment. I hate you. On top of, I already felt this way. And so now we're back to the ping pong. Do you see the oscillation? Because the question was, why am I broken? And then you tried to escape your emotional state by producing all of this action and this behavior. And then when that behavior didn't uphold what it promised it would give you, it collapsed. And then because it collapsed, it reversed. And now you're back in the emotional state you hated. And now because you hate that state, you're going back to the original question at an unconscious level, because now you have more evidence of that question. You have, let me say that again, you have more evidence of that question, not less, more. Because you asked the question. So I want you to write this down based on what you said you were trying to up level. It's not so much a question, though, it's more of a statement. Life will reveal, life will reveal the internal question I have been asking. Life will reveal the internal question that I have been asking. So write that down, because that is how you're going to up level. I just gave you the strategy, because our brains, they love strategy. Tell me the how. Tell me the how. Okay, so now let's bring up why I even brought up human design and gene keys and astrology, because they have their place. They absolutely have their place. Again, there are tools we're surrounded with that imply truth, but we'll never actually know the full extent of that truth or those systems or those resources until we are first in a correct question or a correct orientation with the world around us. And I know I'm frozen again, so we're going to give it a brief minute. It's the YouTube and the Zoom at one time. It's like, hang on. Okay. So when you change the question that you're living in, then the resources and the tools, the emotional behavior, and the action all change as well. So if I could get you into the root issue of up leveling or trying to change your life or trying to manifest a better reality, the root problem isn't that you don't know how. The root problem is that you haven't asked the correct question. So it took me a really long time to learn this. So for those that don't know my background, it feels relevant to tell you. I worked in corporate for nearly a decade. And inside of working in corporate, I was taught and trained to ask dig deep questions. And by asking dig deep questions, the idea was you would only be able to sell someone something if you could get into their emotional state. And so I'm like, okay, I'll ask questions. I didn't know until finding astrology, like finding these resources again, because I was kicking ass on the outside, but I was dying on the inside. And there wasn't peace because I wasn't in harmony with my internal and external. Like there wasn't peace there. And so I was searching for astrology because it found me, right? And not everyone is drawn to occult language, but I am. I laugh and I tell people like, don't mistake it. I'm both. I'm totally corporate and luxury and wealth and love money and love business and love structure. And I'm also the person that's like, are you shitting me? I can't believe how you don't see that the occult language doesn't match with like the material. So I'm literally the embodiment of spirituality and practicality, and then the embodiment of like ancient wisdom, ancient truth mixed with like, yes, there needs to be structure and strategy in the masculine and the feminine. They go together. So my point is, I was looking for astrology at the time because I was trying to discover again, why am I feeling this way? But yeah, I have so much success, as they would say on the outside. So in astrology, it says you have a Scorpio moon. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, what's the point? And it says you have the ability to read the unseen and to read between the lines and to get right to the bottom of things. And you have the ability to go the deepest. So imagine me learning that, working in corporate, and my entire 10-year corporate career is based on asking questions and the ability to go deep because sales don't happen unless you're willing to get to the emotional trigger point. So here I am, a fish in water, doing my thing for almost 10 years. And I knew I was excellent at sales, just came supernatural. But hear what I'm saying. Sales came natural because my ability in my astrology says that I'll go deep with anyone at any time with anything because that's who I am. It's my nature. So my nature was put in an environment where I would thrive. But the missing link was, again, asking the correct question because I was using astrology as a way for someone to tell me what to do because I felt so insecure with my own life because I was asking the question, what is wrong with me? So I find astrology, and here's the craziest part, I put it down. I actually didn't go back to it because it was like, yeah, this has no relevance to my life. Fast forward, I have a beautiful lady come into my life and she's talking about my human design, and it went in one ear and out the other. And I wish at that time I had someone tell me what I'm about to tell you right now. The very things that you pray for have already shown up. But because you're asking the wrong question, you don't have the ability to even conceptualize the fact that it's already hit your very present awareness. What I mean by that is, here I am asking God, like, please get me out of my hellhole because my hellhole sucks. I'm miserable. I'm unhappy. I just did a bikini competition. I'm skinny. I'm like making thousands of dollars a paycheck. I'm doing sales, all the things. And I hate my freaking life. I hate it. I hate waking up at 5 in the morning and pushing myself and just literally feeling so rigid and feeling like there's got to be more to this world, God. But here's the thing. I was asking those questions, but it wasn't even, I'm trying to help you understand the depth of the unconscious questions we asked. Because there were days where I would ask the right question and I felt like I was having kick-ass days. I don't want you to think my whole life was only hell and misery, but I'm trying to get to the point, which is you can ask the right question and notice that you'll have a phenomenal day. And then the next day, you can be rooted in the wrong question and have a horrible day. And the only thing that changed in day one and day two was the question that you chose to live inside. So, another concept that I hope you're writing down if you haven't already is that we're not talking about surface level questions, as in, like, what color is the sky or what do I want to wear today? Those are the surface level questions. No, I'm talking about the question that you're unconsciously living inside. So maybe you've never heard someone explain it this way, but you actually do live inside of a question. Like that's a fact. The human brain is really, really talented at finding evidence and finding whatever it is that you're focused on. So I know you've heard the concept that what you focus on, you will find more of. And where your energy goes, that's where your attention will grow. I know you've heard all of that, but I want to say it completely different. You can put all of that on a shelf, put it in the trash can for all I give a damn. I want you to understand it this way instead. There's a question that you live inside. So, what that means is when you're living inside of something, like literally take your office space or your house space or wherever you're at, there's a question that you're living inside, and it's an environment. So, most people think that energy is just a word that we use to describe another dimension, but energy is actually an environment in which we live in as much as something that we experience. So the question is what creates the environment. So I want you to imagine that when you're up leveling, whether it's in health, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in money, whether it's in career, I really love efficiency. So I like to ask questions that combine them all. And I'll give you examples in a moment, but the question that you ask around that will determine the environment that your spirituality and your mental body will live inside. That will be the environment for what's happening here. That's the environment you'll live inside because your brain will constantly look for the answer. Based on that environment inside of your mind, you're then going to have an emotional state because you've been living in this mental environment based on this question. Now your emotional body is getting involved, and your emotional body is like, wow, whether we know the answer or not, just thinking about it over and 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 over again, just because we've circulated that question over and over and over again because it's the root. It's like traveling around the planets multiple times. The emotional body is going to start to perceive an emotional state. So a state is going to be the emotional environment that you live in most of the time because the question you're living inside doesn't necessarily need an answer. But because it's a question, it's an open file. And when a file is open, you're looking for research and data. So I want you to literally think about detectives and FBI work. When they have a file and a case closed, the case closed is what I believe creates beliefs. So when we've just been like, nope, case closed, this is how I am, I'm just broken. When the FBI agents or detectives, when they close a file, they don't go reopen it unless someone from the outside world says you need to open that back up. You need to open that back up right now because your conclusions are incorrect. So what I'm doing in this training is helping you see we need to open the file back up and we need to look at the question you've been asking because the question you've been asking has been incorrect. But you've closed the file and you're like, nope, that's just what we're going to write it off as. You're broken forever. That's the conclusion we've come to. We're going to close the file. We're going to tuck that file away. And then we're going to go on to the next case. What you didn't know when you closed that belief and you made it cement, when you put it in the file is the subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind now has a file and it doesn't even need to be reopened. It's just decided this is how life is. That closed file inside of that case says we are broken. We don't need to think about that anymore. We've closed the case because we've already decided the decision. Okay. So when it's in your subconscious mind, it goes back here, and then you have another question that forms. And because you've already cemented the idea that you're broken, the next question might be, what is wrong with me? So then that file is open. And when a file is open, what does the FBI and the detective work do? They go and they go find the answer. They go out into their world. They go talk to a million people. They go investigate. They go have experiences. I mean, think about your literal life, you guys. You are literally a detective and you didn't even freaking know it. Like you go interact with life all of the time, right? And you didn't know that you were using the questioning process in a really negative, piss poor way. Because I promise, dependent on what is in that file, that will be the results over here that someone does or does not have. So if the file is open, what do? Like literally, put in the chat. If the file is open, what does your brain do? It seeks out strategy. It seeks out answers. It seeks out anything it can grab its hands on. And then you blame your brain for doing that. But you're the one that decided this is the case that we're going to go solve. So my question to you is, do you really want to solve why you're broken? Do you really want to solve why you're fat? Do you really want to solve why you don't have money? Do you really want to solve why your life is not working and why everyone hates you? Because as I'm asking those questions to you, my nervous system is saying F no, like souls no, souls no. Why? Because I have enough discipline in my nervous system based on what I'm teaching you that I had to learn the really damn hard way. And I'm helping you understand that those questions will never, even if they get answered, they will never satisfy the emotional state that you crave or the results that you actually want. Because right now on this training, you really do believe that if you can solve the problem of being fat and unhappy and broke, You really do believe that if you can solve that question, that you will feel better and you won't. Why? Because you're going to ask, why am I fat? What is the problem? And then you're going to find all this evidence. Okay. And it's just going in the file. Oh, this is why, 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 this is why. And then your file's full and you're like, okay, I have found all the answers. File closed. Put that file back here. Now you just cemented a belief. I'll be fat forever because now I have evidence that says this is just how it is. Now we're in a belief state because we closed the file. And then the results we take or the actions we take are, well, I don't actually really like the closed file I just put away. So I'm going to fight reality and say I'm not fat, even though I just found evidence of why that really does feel true. And then I'm going to go work out on the treadmill for 16 hours instead of 8. And I'm going to push myself. It's going to be unhealthy. I'm going to touch the basis of what I think is success for maybe just a minute. And then I'm going to feel really shitty about myself because I don't feel whole. I don't feel fulfilled. But someone told me that if I could just fix the problem, I'd feel better. And now I don't. And now I'm back to the square problem. And the question, then the file gets opened again. And the question is, why am I still broke? Why am I still fat? Why am I still unhappy? Because all you're doing is you're in a very negative thought loop pattern and it's a cycle. And I know that you're getting this, but I want to make it even more simple. So let's say on your paper you wrote down that you want to be more wealthy or you want to be more successful, whatever it is. Then that tells me we have got to have, oh, we're frozen again. Come on, baby computer, you got this. Yeah, I do talk to my computer. See? Because when you do, life works. Okay, so back to what I was saying. You have to have the discipline based on what you're trying to manifest. You've got to have the discipline around what question. So this is what's really funny. You have to ask, can I give you the foundation? Can I give you the how? So this is really simple. So write on your paper, I need to, what question? So this is the question. What question will serve me the most today? What question will serve me the most today? What question is going to get me everything I've ever wanted? What question is going to get me everything I've ever wanted? And then I'll give you an example. So there was a time in my life where I wanted to experience miracles. And I'm like, wow, miracles feels like a really interesting word. And I want to know what that feels like. So I'm like, okay, God, I want to know what that feels like. And so I started with this question and I just had you write it down. What is the most important question I can live inside today? It's actually a more powerful way to word it, but what is the most powerful question that I can live inside today? Because again, the question is the environment. So if I'm going to live inside of something and I'm going to get whatever evidence I'm asking for, I've got to have enough discipline to be able to answer that question. We can talk about discipline on another training, but it is discipline to be able to control what questions you're asking. So I remember saying, I want to know what miracles are. And so I knew that I couldn't be asking, why do I not experience miracles, but everyone else does? Why do I not know how to create miracles and manifest like so and so does? I used to actually envy, like actually get jealous of women who would show up on YouTube and talk about manifestation because I was in such action behavior that I couldn't figure out why it was so easy for them. And then, I don't know, one day this process revealed itself, and there's a lot to do with that. But I remember thinking, I'm going to master manifestation because that word is like a hot word. A lot of people use it. There's a lot of techniques, but there's a lot of non-truth in it as well. So I want to find what's truth for me. And I remember saying, I want to know what miracles feel like. But in order to do that, I have to live inside the right question because my brain is going to pull in evidence. As soon as I get out of bed, I'm the detective and I will find whatever evidence I want to find and put inside the file. So a lot of us don't see our brains as the creative potential that they are. But my goal in every single training ever is to help you have a better relationship with yourself. I know I'm playing with my hair a lot. I'm aware. It's just pissing me off. So with manifestation, I'm like, okay, cool. So I close my eyes and you should do this too because you're wanting to up level. So close your eyes right now, look at what you wrote down and ask yourself the question, what is the question? What is the best question I can ask? What is the best question I can ask to get the results or evidence that I want today? Okay. And when you do that, what's really cool about that is you'll have a question. So when I was asking about miracles, and I'm like, I'm going to build a life that feels like miracle after miracle after miracle. Because I had built a life which was hell after hell after hell. So why couldn't I do the opposite? Right. So then what I did is I asked the question, I said, and I wrote it down like this. So the question became that day, why do I experience miracle after miracle after miracle? And I didn't have discipline. So I would think of a beautiful question and then I'd go on in my world and, you got all these things to do. So you forget about it. Right. But I wanted to have discipline where no matter what I was doing, right? I had to work in corporate still. I was still doing the things. I was like, all the things were still happening, but I wanted to live inside of an environment here where even if I was busy in the physical plane, my mental plane and my spiritual plane was changing my emotional state. And if you can change your emotional state, you can create your dream state, your dream reality. And you can bring that fantasy or that dream or that goal to this plane. But you can't bring it into the material plane until your mental and spiritual bodies are able to generate the emotional state with your emotional body so that you can experience it in your physical body. So when people say mind, body, and spirit, it's not all practicality. It's actually very scientific. It is a system. You start in the spiritual plane, you start in the mental plane. Now, the mental plane and the spiritual plane with your emotional body is going to create the nervous system. So, when you literally change the question, you're literally changing the generation of your nervous system to now generate evidence based on the new state we're occupying. So, if you grasp what I'm laying down, you will forever be changed. But it does require, and I want to be careful how I say this because I don't believe things take a long time. I don't believe time is relevant. I do believe it takes presence. I'm going to use the word commitment. If you're committed to the question, it's not that you have to work harder. It's that you need to be intentional inside of the question that you're living inside. So, because I was aware that my mind liked to go all over the damn place and was like a stallion and just kicking up hoofs and shitting all over the floor, I knew that I had to develop a sort of discipline, a refinement, a commitment to my question. And even if I forgot about the question throughout the day, at the end of the night, I would still find the evidence that I put inside of my file. So, for example, I would start the day with, Brianna, why do I in my life experience miracle after miracle after miracle? And at first, I would go to bed and forget I even asked the question. So then I put it on my screensaver because I needed something to anchor it here. So I needed the spiritual and mental body to root and to remind me so that I could keep circling around it, so that I could build the emotional body, so that I could take the action. So I put it on my screensaver and it literally says what I just said to you. And it says, Brianna, why do you experience miracle after miracle after miracle? And then I would go about my day, and then suddenly I would experience something like a detective. I would have an experience, and then my brain grabbed it. And this was the coolest thing. I had an awareness for the first time in my life. And I'm like, oh, that's a miracle, isn't it? And my brain says, yeah, that's evidence. That is literally evidence. And it was really cool. Like at the time, I had never manifested large sums of money, but I manifested $11,000 in one day. And it was the most I'd ever made in a day. And I was like, oh, I manifested $11,000 in a day. Is that a miracle? And then here's what's cool. I started taking evidence and at night, so I was already a badass because I was asking the question. But when this really became a system that I'm able to give to you, it was when I added the night piece, which was reflecting on my day for all of the things that went into the file. And so I would ask myself the question, what evidence do I have today that supported the question, like an ongoing detective? And it was like, okay, so today this person called me and I felt really good. Why is that a miracle? And then I'm like, no, we're not asking why. We're just asking for our brain to collect the evidence of why I experience miracle after a miracle. And then it was like, because you're worthy, because you're deserving, because you're epic, because you're great, because you're kind, because you're a badass. Like it just kept going. And so then the next day, because I had evidence the night before, the next day I was even more excited to go on my hunt. So then life started to feel like a mystery and it started to feel less than pessimistic. It started to feel like, well, I just collected all of this evidence and I could only imagine how FBI detectives feel and like, the cops and all of that when they're like, yes, I got the guy. Like it feels like victory, but it's more than that because you're aware that even though you have the evidence, there's so many other details that you could have left out. And so then your brain is like, wait, we don't actually even need to close the case. And that is the third step. So far you have step one, which is the right question around where you want to level up. So if you're looking to have a better relationship, you might ask the question, why am I so lovable? Why? You might even ask, I'll just give you lots of questions because I'm not going to jump in your soul and do the work for you. I'm just not. That is your job. But if I wanted a better relationship, because I also went through that, here's what's so cool. I don't think I haven't experienced not one thing that, like, you could ask me a question and I could guarantee I'm like, yep, I've experienced that. I'm an old soul. I'm an old soul, but with a lot of playful energy. Okay. Very old soul. So my point is, so question one for a relationship might be, why can I have anybody in the world I want? Why, why am I the most desirable yet? Like I would ask a question that implies the question sometimes has the answer within it, right? So if I wanted more friendships and better relationships, I might ask why am I surrounded by the most incredible human beings in the entire planet? Why have I been selected to maintain all of the coolest humans as my friends? And why am I the one that is so special and divinely chosen? Like, what makes me so unique, right? If I was manifesting health and like the best body ever, I would just be like, wow, why is my body so effing good at just executing perfect health? Why am I so, and usually the question is why, it doesn't always mean why, but I have found in my detective brain that my brain really likes the question why. Like, why am I the most magentic person in the world? Why am I so powerful? That's another question I like that sums up all of them. So remember, I love efficiency. So if I was up leveling my life, I would want a question that answers all efficiency. Like, why am I the most powerful, badass human in the world? Why am I fearless? That is my favorite question, by the way. Why am I fearless? When I started asking that question the last 6 months ago, I was going through some really hard things. Okay, this doesn't mean that once you learn this process, you don't experience life, but I was asking the right questions, so I was able to get through those things a lot faster than most people because my emotional body became resilient. Okay, do you hear what I'm saying? I'm not just teaching you how to uplevel your life and your desires. I'm teaching you how to uplevel your nervous system. I'm teaching you how to uplevel your mental, your spiritual, your emotional body so that when you naturally take action, you've got a detective behind you who's like, yep, see, that's why. Yep, see, that's why. Yep, see, that's why. You want to know why you're freaking fearless? That's why. You want to know why you're badass? That's why. You want to know why you're the best? That's why. Because the why and the process of feedback, it helps you understand whatever question you're asking. So a lack of understanding isn't because you're dumb. A lack of understanding is because you're not disciplined enough to ask the question that you actually want to understand, right? I was asking like some gnarly questions when I was going through lots of things like relationships and divorces and all things. And I'm like, why am I going through my second divorce again? Like, why is this happening? And that question was relevant because it helped me understand that I'm a chain breaker and I'm healing generational trauma. And then I found human design, and I will happily tell you how the hell to get started there. But you have to be asking the right question to be ready for it to change your life. So when I was asking, why am I so fearless? I published a book. You can't really see it, but it's back there. So I published a book. And in that process, I'm like, why am I so fearless? And I'm like, because God's got my back. I'm like, why am I so fearless? Because you just published a book, and a lot of people would be too afraid to do that. Why am I so fearless? Because you've gone through stuff and you've already conquered. Why am I so fearless? Because I'm a spiritual being connected to my God essence. Okay, why are you so fearless? Because everybody loves me. And so your brain literally rewires itself. And do you understand that by asking a question and changing the neurological pathways, you don't have to do half as much work as the masses do? And it's not because you're not willing to put in work, right? Like putting your nose to the ground and getting shit done is still real, but you're asking a question that fuels you instead of drains you, right? Like I remember the awareness I had, which was, oh my gosh, by asking the right question, I'm literally merging my internal world and my external world. But before I was aware and I was just living life innocently, I had the awareness that I felt like they were separate. So like I'd go to corporate, I would do the things. I was in a very masculine dominant world, all the things, but then after that, I would come home and want to escape into my own world. So it became escapism because my internal world felt like it was being neglected. And so I'm like, okay, I just want to escape. And then, gosh, I was already in love with meditation. Like, you didn't have to train me to tell me that was cool. Like, that was the only way I think I was able to accelerate into my corporate career, to be honest. But when my emotional body started changing, that's when I had to quit corporate because when you manifest and you level up, there is a process that happens, which is okay, you've already created a new emotional state and you no longer resonate with where you've been. And that is the part that you need to be ready for. And I'll probably do a whole separate training on that because I want you to keep you in the question. I want to keep you in the question and start building the mental and the emotional body before we get into the like actual, okay, I did the thing, now what? Because I'm about to jump off the ledge. But even if you didn't have that training from me, you would have an emotional body that is so strong that your intuition would actually just tell you. So when I started asking the question, like, why am I so fearless? Why am I so certain of myself? Why am I so sure? Why am I able to live out my truth? And it was like, this is why, this is why, this is why. And then the physical world, again, is your playground of evidence. So it's not like you're building a question and you're just answering it by yourself. No, the purpose is to ask a question that you want to live inside, right? Live inside of that question. And then when you go out into the physical world and you're working and you're serving people and you're just living your best life, things will naturally happen. But your perception, your awareness is now picking up the good and it's picking up all the golden nuggets. It's not picking up all the shit boulders and all the trash and all of people's emotional drama. It's picking up what you actually would like to put in the file. So this is where you become a conscious creator because I think my light is vibrating quite a bit. Yep, that's the frequency we're going to. Um, because when your outside life refines that much, what's really cool is that you start to vibrate literally at a different level. And when that happens, it's simply because your brain isn't so full with data you don't want. You're now putting in data that you do want. So you become a conscious creator because you're asking, okay, if these things are going to go into my file and I see my body as a file system, what files do I want? And what's really cool is at night, you can ask yourself and reflect, did I live inside of the question today? What evidence came and happened? What did I experience today? Here's the better question to write down. What did I experience today that validates the truth of this question? Right? So if I was asking the question, pick your question based on where you're up leveling. Or you can just go right to the identity, which is why am I so powerful? Why am I so fearless? Why do I manifest everything I want? Why am I a powerful manifester? Why am I now in my best timeline? Why am I the richest self ever? Ask the question you want to live inside, change it as often as you want to, but have discipline. So no matter what you do, don't just jump from question to question, because I used to do that. It actually is really more powerful if you give each question time to like let it grow roots. Let it grow roots. Because then when you go to pull open that file, you'll have a really sound, solid case, not just, well, we think this guy did it. Because this one thing happened, right? And then you go to the next question. It's like, no, I want you to have the depth to your file. I want someone to ask you the question and this is when you know you've nailed it, is when someone can sit you down. Like if someone asked me the question and they were interviewing me, Brianna, why are you so powerful? I would open my file and I would have a really rich conversation with them because I have the evidence in the file built. Where sometimes when someone sits you down and says, why are you a badass? Why are you powerful? Your brain goes, well, one time in kindergarten, I did this one thing, and I think that's why. It's like, it's not that it's weak, it's just that your file hasn't been built out because you only stayed on the case for a day, right? It's like the FBI agent. If he was only given a day to figure out like all of life and solve everything or solve a case in one day, his file would be very weak, or his file wouldn't even be like even begun, right? It takes some time to get the process over and over and over and over and over again. So, in my observation, the reason people talk about manifestation, in my opinion, when they talk about repetition and manifestation, no one's probably told you the why, because here we are answering the why. The repetition is less about how many times you do a thing. The repetition is how strong and resilient you can get your emotional body. So the repetition is actually about the emotional body, and the repetition on what you're repeating comes from the question. So the question asked over and over and over again builds the discipline or the consistency to circle around the emotional environment over and over and over again. So now you're living in an environment where your internal emotional and mental levels are married. And then in the physical reality, people will feel that vibration. And so you'll naturally have experiences drawn to you, which is the law of attraction, and they're going to reflect to you the very question you started your day with. So, what's really cool about that is when you feel like you're an imposter and you feel like you don't know how to up level and you're feeling all of these things, that's okay. But if you could have a magic wand and life was literally sitting next to you as I was training you and held your hand and said, baby, what do you want to experience? Like, what do you want a direct experience with? It's okay to say, I don't feel confident, but I would love to have more experience with confidence. Then life would say, okay, baby, I'm going to have you ask the question every day. Why am I so confident? Because if you will live in that question, I promise to deliver experiences that will reflect to you that question, and I will help you climb the ladder. But too many of us want to manifest without God, without spirituality, without mental responsibility, without discipline of where we are here. And we want to be able to do it by our own force, our own hands, our own strength. And then we can't figure out why we don't feel different than when we started the process. So you have to really look at, are you willing to let life help you climb the ladder? Because in order to up level, think about this. This whole training is about up leveling. If all you did is go from the bottom of the base of a ladder and all you did is get to the second base of the ladder or the second step of that ladder, you did just up level. But too many times our brain says, well, I'm here and what I want is here. And so I need to force the leap. And I'm saying, yeah, but does force feel good in your emotional body? Because it doesn't feel good in mine. In fact, my body doesn't want to put in more effort than it has to. I like the lazy way. I like the easy way. And because I like the easy way, all I do is ask, why am I so powerful? And that chills your nervous system out because now you've just gone from this level to this level. And we undervalue that up leveling because we don't think it was large enough or big enough. And that's a whole nother topic. But the question you ask, let's put it this way. The question you ask based on any area you're wanting to up level will determine how far up the ladder you get. So the more powerful the question, the more powerful the leap or climb or up level. So when you ask the question, why am I worthy of everything I desire? That is not going to be you going from the bottom of the ladder to then the maybe second or third step. That's you going from the bottom of the ladder to the top. And notice all you had to do was ask the right question. And by living in the environment at the top, your emotional body starts to feel like you're already at the top. So when you take behavior, it's not because you're trying to force yourself to the top, it's because you remembered that's who you've always been. So at an identity level, now we're talking the real game. Do you get it? So step one, here's your formula because we're going to wrap up this training. The steps to up leveling. Number one, you're going to ask a better question based on the area you want to up level. You're going to ask the question you want to live inside. What question are you going to live inside as if you were the detective for that case? Like someone literally hired you, and your job was to wake up every day that you existed to find every single piece of information, validation, evidence, and everything else based on that one question, right? Why am I so rich? Why am I so effing rich? My job today as the detective, no matter what things I have to do, is to find every single piece of information I can find so that that file keeps getting built out and built out and built out and built out. And if I choose to close the file, it's only because I've got an even better question to ask. Now, not why am I so rich? Maybe it's why am I limitless? Why am I so limitless? Why am I limitless? And my job is to start every day figuring out why I'm limitless. Oh, because my heart's connected to God and God's connected to all things. Awesome. Show me. I want more. I want more. I want more. When you have that level of demand on your question, your brain is going to turn on in ways that neural pathways have forgotten are even possible. When that happens, your emotional body is going to grow. Your emotional body is like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Where have I been hiding? Have I been under a rock this whole time? Maybe. And then there is going to be a point where the boulder has to go so that you don't feel smashed based on all the rocks you've been holding. Because in your previous conception of yourself, you might have thought it was normal for people to walk on you. You might have thought it was normal to not pay your bills, right? That felt familiar until it didn't, because now you've got a new file that says, whoa, hold on, hold on, hold on. This new file says I'm a badass. The old file says that I'm an idiot. So I have to delete a program if I want to expand more. I'm going to delete the I'm a loser file and I'm going to build out the I'm a badass file. I have to build out that file because that file is where we're going. That's giving me things I love. That emotional body feels really good. And when you're up against choosing and your nervous system's like, whoa, there is a lot happening. Anytime that you feel overwhelmed, it's just a reminder to choose. Do I want to build this file? Do I feel good when I'm asking why I'm a loser? Okay, ask your emotional state. Do I feel good building this evidence anymore? The answer is no. Cool. And it's as simple as an intention. So here's the metaphysical and occult to this. Just decide and ask God to now delete all systems, all files from your nervous system through all time, space, dimensions, and all realities from all past lives and anything connected to you at all in the case that you've been building for why you are broken, and ask it to be permanently deleted. Uninstall the app, delete, remove, let the energy move. Cry if you need to, walk if you need to, somatically allow it to release. And what I mean by that is sometimes we get way too in our head. Shake your damn hands, dude. Shake your hands, shake your body, shake your booty. I do not care. But the process of this is to reinstall the new app. And to reinstall the new app, if I haven't said it 16 times, I'll say it again. To reinstall the new app, all we have to do, wow, there we are. All we have to do to reinstall the new app is ask the question. And if we ever get off track to what question and what file we're building out, we can just go back to, oh yeah, this is the question I'm asking. Put it on your screensaver. I have mine right here above my laptop. I have it on my phone. I have it everywhere. Because no matter what, I'm aware that people have free agency and I don't need them to bend to my will. I don't need external co-authorship for my life to be epic. I don't need the signature of someone else to say you have permission to do this. But in that reminder, I'm constantly using tools that do feed me, not because I'm broken, but now because the question has changed, which is, why am I such a badass? Why am I so powerful? And then when you go to your toolbox and you're like, oh, let's pull this really beautiful thing. And it says, I walk away from anything that dims my light. That is more evidence to me based on the question I'm asking. Why am I a badass? That is now evidence that confirms from, again, the outside world, something outside of me that says, well, you're a badass because you always walk away from things that dim your light. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. So sometimes those tools become reminders. And that's what human design and gene keys and astrology and these ancient systems are. They are reminders, but you are the conscious creator. You are the one in the driver's seat. So I want to make sure that you know where the real power is. So step one, you're asking the question you want to live inside. Step two, you're just going to be aware of how you feel when you ask the question. Like if you feel good, keep asking the question. Have the discipline to stick with the question, right? That's number two. Just stick with the freaking question so that you can build the emotional body associated with it. And then step three, I would dare say, is that at night, I would encourage you, even if it was literally for 60 seconds, to ask your brain, where did I have evidence of this? What did I experience today that confirmed this? And when you do that, your file will start to get built all the time. If you feel like this is just another thing that's going to add to your already busy life, you can actually make it way more simple. Have the discipline to wake up in the morning, ask the question you're going to live inside, and then go about your day. If you don't reflect on it, that's okay. If you have the discipline to stick with the question, it will naturally show you. So when I had my biggest money day ever, and it was $11,000, I didn't need to wait at night before I reflected. In that moment, I was aware, wow, this is a direct experience based off the question I asked. And I had been asking for months. Okay. Does that feel complete? Yes. The last thing I will say is that in order to up level any area of your life, It is more important that you work on your subconscious mind more than you just attack the behavior. And I think I pointed that out in the beginning of this training, which is you can change your behavior, but if you don't change the question, change how you're feeling, and change your nervous system, then you're going to be doing a lot of work to be at square one. So I really hope you understand the question has to come first. And that's just my belief. You don't have to get on board, but if you're here, it's because I know you're looking for truth and you're looking for the simple and the easy way. And the simplest way to change your life is to ask better questions. Okay, so I think my laptop's like, girl, you spitting fire and we can't keep up. See, you get to create your own meaning too. So let me see if. All right. Okay. Well, whenever it shows up, if that's the way it ends, I mean, look at my face. Are you confused? Are you confused? Just remember, this is a cute facial expression of, are you really confused or do you want to ask a better question? So hopefully that's not the imprinting you get on your subconscious mind, but if it is, you're welcome. Okay, I want to hear in the comment section if you're in school already, tell me how this has changed your life. If you're not inside of school and you're not inside of my Human Design Academy, you are so ready for it. You are so freaking ready to remember who the heck you are. You are so ready to have your light be reflected back to you. And my guess is that you're sick and tired of experiencing the same thing that you've been experiencing. So I am going to more than invite you into Universal Love Academy. I'm also doing for a limited time. Okay, so this offer might not be available if you're watching YouTube several months down the line. That's okay. If you're wanting to do a personal reading with your human design chart, reach out to me. I'm also going to have the Universal Love Academy link inside of the comment section because Universal Love Academy is where I dive into this sort of human behavior, but at a really profound level for you. I can help you understand what questions are going to best serve you. I can help connect you back to who you've been and really who you need to continue to be. So it looks like my face is going to stay glued to that Zoom just like that. And then I'm going to be okay with it. Anyways, okay, I love you all so much. You guys are more than a blessing. I freaking love you. I freaking believe in you. And make sure that you get inside of, there we are, you get inside of the academy because 2026, dude, we're not just up leveling, like I said, one step at a time. Let's just go to the top of the ladder. Let's live there and let's keep building each other up and remember that we're really not limited unless we believe we are. So I'm going to leave you at that. Okay, guys, I love you with so much passion. See ya.